Hi there! Nowadays, people sometimes leave their expensive supercars on the street or in abandoned garages. It may seem illogical and absurd to you, but if you dig deeper, it might not be quite so odd. Let's take a look and see what's going on. Buying a Ferrari is the ultimate dream car for many people. So, how did this one start to rot away under the hot sun in the grasslands of Ibadan, Nigeria? This isn't any old Ferrari. It's a limited edition F50. 349 F50s, which are recognized as the last road car with an F1 engine, were built to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Ferrari in 1995. They almost never appear on the open market, and they're so valuable to collectors that when one does become available, the price can go as high as $2 million. This poor abandoned F50 looks like it suffered in the sun, but it's still intact. Hopefully somebody can restore it to its former beauty. When urban explorers investigated an old abandoned country house in Surrey, England, they found a real shock waiting for them in the barn gathering dust. A vintage 1929 racing Bentley, the same model that used to result in regular wins for Great Britain in the 24-hour Le Mans endurance races. This classic has been hiding out here ever since 1985. It was originally bought by the grandfather of the property's last owner in the 1930s. Only around 1,800 of these cars were ever built between 1927 and 1930, and most of them have long since rusted away to nothing. The car was sent to an auction, where an expert who surveyed it said that finding a Bentley of this kind in such good condition was the equivalent of finding a new painting by Rembrandt. Its estimated value to collectors is more than $400,000. Rotting away in a field surrounded by goats is an undignified end for a Lamborghini Diablo. These luxury supercars were in production for many years, with a run that started in 1900 and ended in 2001. But only 2,884 models were ever created. The rest of them all surely enjoyed better fates than this forgotten dream car. Who would drive such a spectacular car into a field and leave it there for goats to admire? We may never know the answer, but we hope someone will come forward and take care of it. These two classic vintage cars narrowly avoided an accidental date with a demolition ball. The beautiful duo, a 1966 Ferrari 275 GTB2 and a 1967 Shelby Cobra 427, have sat in this barn of an abandoned house since 1991. This barn sits on dilapidated land in a wealthy area and was scheduled to be destroyed to make way for new housing. But fortunately, someone decided to have a look inside first. Both vehicles have less than 20,000 miles on the odometer, and insurers believe that their combined value exceeds $4 million. The Cobra in particular is a rare build, with its 427 racing engine instead of the standard 428. They're a little dusty, but apart from that, they've been perfectly protected from the elements, and the engines of both cars started up at the first crank. They're now in the hands of private collectors. To the untrained eye, this is just a broken-down wreck of a car with a full hedge growing out of the hood, but in its prime, it was a complete one-off. You're looking at the shell of a 1967 Shelby GT500. But back when it had someone care for it, cosmetic work was performed to upgrade it to a 68 model as a promotional aid for a local car dealership in Georgia, USA. The dealership is long gone now, and the car has simply been abandoned. It's been parked in this field for more than 20 years, where time and nature has torn it apart. The Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren is a supercar of excellent pedigree. It's a product of time, when Mercedes owned a stake in the British McLaren Group, and the two glamorous companies worked together to make incredible cars like this one with a 5.5-liter V8 engine. Sadly, this dusty and weathered model may never move again. It's in police custody in the Czech Republic, where it's been impounded since 2011 after its owner was implicated in a complicated legal investigation. It can't be sold or otherwise moved until the legal matter is dealt with, and so far, it's been going on for years. Surely there's somewhere better to store it than out in the open where it has started to rust. It's starting to feel like there's at least one example of all Ferrari models abandoned out in the wild somewhere. This is a Ferrari Daytona Spyder. Built in the 1970s, and it's been gathering dust and dirt, half hidden in a grassland. In pristine condition, this 1971 Spyder can be worth more than $500,000. It looks like at least some effort has been made to hide the vehicle, but it's evident from the state of decay that it hasn't moved for some time. The windows and frame are still intact, and the interior of the car looks present and correct too. How did it get here? Why has nobody returned for it? In a secret location in Russia, a whole fleet of Marussia supercars have been abandoned in the open, slowly being taken for scrap piece by piece. The worst thing about it is that they were never even driven. Marussia was supposed to be the luxury car manufacturer of the future, making exclusive F2 and coupe models. Pre-orders had been taken on some of the fleet, with retail prices upwards of $100,000. They never made it as far as reaching the sales floor. Marussia went bankrupt in 2014, and everything on the production line was left behind when the company closed. Some of these are one-of-a-kind concept cars utterly unique to the world. What a senseless loss! Bugatti has been making luxury cars ever since the company opened its doors, and the Bugatti Type 22 Brescia Roadster is an excellent early example of their work. This one may no longer look its best, but there's a fascinating story behind it. It spent 73 years at the bottom of a lake in Switzerland when its former owner decided to scrap it instead of paying a tax bill. The vehicle was a custom-order build in 1925 with a 1.5-liter engine and a top speed of over 100 miles per hour, which was incredible for its time. French Grand Prix legend René Dreyfus used to own it, but he lost it in a drunken poker game to Swiss socialite Adalbert Baudet. By 1935, it was underwater. Divers brought it back to the surface in 2009 and sold it to a California collector the following year to exhibit in a museum. Even in its badly damaged state, it cost its new owner $370,000. Formula One racing teams invest millions of dollars into their cars, making sure they're at the cutting edge of speed and technology. Each season, technology moves on, and new cars are built, meaning the older ones are surplus to requirements. So, where do they go? Often they end up in the hands of wealthy private collectors. Somebody in France built up an incredible collection over the years and then left it all to go to wreck and ruin. There are former racing cars from the Lotus, Ferrari, and Renault teams, here along with a Benetton that dates back to the Schumacher era. But the paint is fading and grass has grown through the engines. Nobody knows how these incredible cars came to be forgotten about in this way. And lastly, another sad story about a great car. A Ferrari 456 GT that's been parked and abandoned on the back streets of Tokyo. The personal effects of the owner are still inside, which makes it an even more puzzling discovery. The decaying paintwork suggests that it's been out in the open for a few years, with plants beginning to work their way into the bodywork and a thick coat of rust on the brakes. The unusual design of the spokes suggests that this was a custom order and could be worth more than the $80,000 price guide that most models usually attract. The 6-speed manual gearbox is also likely a custom inclusion. These vehicles usually came with a 4-speed auto. Somebody once loved and cared for this Ferrari. So, where are they now? That's all for today. Write in the comments what you think about these cars and their owners. And don't forget to put a like if you like this video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.